3:30 in the morning, not a soul in sight. The city's looking like a ghost town on a moonlit summer night. Raindrops on the windshield, there's a storm moving in. He's heading back from somewhere that he never should have been. And the thunder rolls, and the thunder rolls. Every light is burning in a house across town. She's pacing by the telephone in her faded flannel gown, asking for a miracle, hoping she's not right, praying it's the weather that's kept him out all night. And the thunder rolls, and the thunder rolls. The thunder rolls, and the lightning strikes. Another love grows cold on a sleepless night, as the storm blows all out of control. Deep in her heart, the thunder rolls. She's waiting by the window when he pulls into the drive. She rushes out to hold him, thankful he's alive. But on the wind and rain, a strange new perfume blows, and the lightning flashes in her eyes, and he knows that she knows. And the thunder rolls, and the thunder rolls. Thunder rolls, and the lightning strikes. Another love grows cold on a sleepless night, as the storm blows on out of control. Deep in her heart, the thunder rolls.
Well, that song was dedicated to Dennis Robinson. You're welcome. There you go, buddy. Just for you. Garth Brooks, man. Thunder Rolls. I know you love it. All right, we're going to continue our series, man. We've gone through halfway through our Elite 8 folks. And, man, it's been a good series, and Todd's done a really good job, again, showcasing the anglers out there. And, we're just going to continue on. We've got two more that we want to do here on this latest hour, and it is Marcus Coates and Matt Frentress. We're going to go ahead and do that for. So, it's these are two different guys, completely different guys. One is outgoing, charismatic. The other one's kind of shy, but, man, they're both fantastic fishermen. And so we're just going to see what they have to say, man. As I said, Marcus honestly just came out of nowhere and just put the pedal to the metal and beat some really good people, man. Jeff Isham down in Texas, was the latest victim to Marcus, who was not afraid to try anything new when it comes to his baits. I mean, he tried frog fishing this last time around and put the hammer on him. So he's got his hands full with Rodney Kennan this weekend. He's not afraid, man. He's coming out full barrel. Again, it's mano a mano. So we're going to see what happens. And, and it's going to be a very, very cool event, Saturday to see what they do. Again, just a little bit worried about the weather coming through. Post frontal conditions for a lot of guys. It's really cold. Like it's really windy and cold here on the East Coast, but it's been terrible. So I just hope we get warmer weather and fishing starts picking up. So. All right, let's go ahead and play Marcus Coates talking to Todd Patrick here.
Hey everybody, what's going on? It's Todd Patrick here with KBBT. We're going to do an interview with the Elite 8 angler, Marc Coates. Marc is out of Social Hill, Arkansas. Has been through a gauntlet of anglers so far in this event. We got from 64 down to 8. Marc, how's it feel so far to be able to make it into the top 8?
Is exhausting a correct term for it? Man, it's what has that been now? It's so 30 hours on the water, not counting prep work or work or anything else. I mean, but at the end of the day, you know, there's not really a word to describe it. It puts you literally speechless. I guess this is how teams feel in the basketball tournament. You know, you're here, you only got to win like 3 more times. We're halfway done. Let's just get out here and grind, baby.
Heck yeah. So we're doing this interview to get to know Marc a little bit deeper than just the surface of what you see out, on the water. We're going to try to dive deep into Marc a little bit here and see if we can't open him up a little bit. So, like I said, Social Hill, Arkansas's Marc Coates here. He's put up some good bags. He had a low 90s bag week 1, 86 inches week 2. And then 93 3/4 last week. It was good to rebound back in the 90s. Marc's got his work cut out for him with his matchup this upcoming week. But let's get to know Marcus a little bit. Let's get this interview started. Marc, you ready?
Yes, sir.
All right, man. Softball lob pitch here for you. Easy question, man. Just really want to kind of get to know you. So just if you wanted to give us a little intro on who Marc Coates is, maybe what you do for a living, what you're, where you come from, and things like that. Just a little intro to you about yourself.
Well, I was born in Benton, Arkansas. Grew up and graduated at Arkadelphia, Arkansas. Moved to Social Hill, just south of Malvern, to be closer to my grandma before she died, and been here ever since. I have fished in, I think, 30-something different states total, so I try to cover as much ground as possible. I don't fish a whole lot of monthlies because I'm never grounded in one state very often. I'm an appointment scheduler for Windows USA out of Royal, Arkansas, one of the sponsors of the KBBT. I've been there for probably 3 years. Been a salesman off and on throughout my entire work history. So, that's about it. I mean, I just most of the time when I get off work on Friday, I'm driving anywhere from 30 minutes all the way up to 14 hours just to go fish some body of water, crashing at a boat ramp, getting up bright and early, and hitting it for the weekend. That's just me, man. I like to travel, like to fish.
Nice. So are you married? You got any kids, family, anything like that?
I am married to my wonderful wife of almost 2 years, Stacy.
Congratulations.
And
nice.
Thank you. And we have a beautiful daughter, Jewel.
Awesome. Well, it's awesome to get their support. We've seen throughout this tournament so far that you've had a good little fan base following you, rooting you on. I don't know if it was your mom, maybe your sister. Not sure. So so you got a lot of people following you and rooting you on, and it's been a pleasure to get to know you through KBBT. But this is just a better opportunity to get to know you on a little bit deeper level, and looking forward to this interview for a while. So let's dig on into some other things. Who would you say, speaking of support and having a good support system while you're out there on the water, who would you say your biggest supporters are? And if you want to talk about them a little bit, give them a shout out.
Absolutely. My biggest, hands down, has probably got to go to my sister, Jessica McClendon. I mean, from waking me up in the morning, even if she's not the one that's supposed to wake me up, she's still calling to make sure I'm up. She gives me regular updates the entire family on what's going on. I mean, if there is anybody that is wrapped around anything that I'm doing tournament wise, it's got to be my sister. My mom and dad aren't far behind her. They just usually wake up a little bit later than her, like everybody in the world should. But they, they're my biggest supporters as well. Of course, my wife and daughter. My uncle Ronnie out of Texas, man, he doesn't miss a single KBBT broadcast, I don't think, just to see if I'm on it. Then I've got, my support team. I've got my coworkers at Windows USA. I've got my boy Chris Garcia down in Texas. I've got my New York buddies up in New York. It's just everybody comes together and serves their own purpose, and it's just great to have that family. But my mom raised us from the get-go to believe family comes first overall, and we're all a close-knit family, and they make sure that it's supported. My grandpa, who I haven't gotten to see since all this started because of everything going on, that man takes a phone call from my mom probably 2-3 times a day while I'm fishing, and he'll tell you what I catch him on, so I can't let y'all talk to him, because as soon as he got on here, he'd tell you all about how I'm out there throwing those 5-pound cricket legs.
That's funny. It's really cool to see, family, friends, loved ones, even, old friends, people from out of state, just to get behind you. It's got to be really cool to have like a little fan base that you're building. And, that's one of the reasons we're kind of doing this interview here, along with the rest of the Elite Eight, to give you guys an insight on these anglers. We've got Conrad Benetti and Daniel Perry I just got done talking to, and now we hear with Mark, and just several other anglers that we'll be talking to, Marty Hughes. You guys, we're trying to, help build you guys up, give you guys a little bit of a fan base, and let people see, not just the fisherman side or the angler side of you guys, but just to see a little deeper side. John Pepin was a fun interview that we had earlier today. So just looking forward to interviewing all y'all. So Mark, let's get into it a little bit deeper. What got you into kayak fishing, and when did you start?
When did I start fishing or kayak fishing?
Either or, brother. It's your show.
Oh man. I don't really remember when I actually picked up a fishing line. It was the last memory I can remember was my Uncle Doug had me a pine stick with a brim line tied on it, and I dock flipped like a 4-pound catfish, and it was all she wrote after that, So, I got to go. I didn't really figure out the whole kayak canoe thing then. I got to go fishing a lot with him on his old bass boat, and we went up and down the Caddo River and Lake DeGray and things over here in South Central Arkansas. But he died in a car crash when I was still pretty young, and I took it really hard. Because he didn't have any kids, and my dad kind of said, "Here, you want them, take them." So, I kind of grew up getting taught everything by, water wise by my Uncle Doug, and my Uncle Dan, my dad's other brother, stepped in after that. And when he did that, we would always take out this big, long 2-man Coleman canoe, and
nice.
We took that thing everywhere. We'd go crappie fishing, bass fishing, put it on the river. It didn't matter. We would just go fishing all the time. Every time I could get down there, because I'd gotten a little bit older, I could kind of drive a little bit. I was making my way, down there. And when he died, I inherited the canoe. So I had a 2007 Toyota Corolla. The canoe was longer than the whole car, and I started out putting 2 pillows on the top of it, and I would carry that canoe to school, to work. That canoe, there was more days that the canoe was on the car than wasn't.
Nice.
Well, I got a little bit older than that, and I was like, I want a kayak. I want to get, I want something that I can control by myself a little bit easier. So I saved up the money and had my uncle drive me down to Shreveport, Louisiana, Bass Pro Shops, and I brought back I don't even know what it was called, a Send FS10 or something, little sit-in with 2 rod holders in the back. Thought I was the coolest thing since Wonder Bread. And that's when it started. That's when I was like, oh, man, now we're going places. And I can't tell you how many fish I landed in that thing, but I don't even know if that number exists. Well, when New Canoe hit the scene, I was contacted by Dennis Finley, who was a dealer out of Arkansas, and he was like, "Hey, this kayak brand is just coming to the state. I think he told me I had one of the first 5 in the state, and I bought a New Canoe Frontier 12." And he goes, "Well, if you're gonna buy this, I want you to fish in the tournament series we got going on." So that's when I started the local tournament series, and I was instantly addicted to competition because I'm just a competitive guy, being a salesman. And
Right.
one thing led to another. KBF hit. Oh man, now I'm fishing with the big dogs. I got to see a lot of these guys before they were big dogs, and then now here recently we've had FLW hit. Got to fish both of their events. Got to fish both the BASS events. Qualified for the national championship a couple of years back. I've gotten to see a lot of different waters, fish a lot of top brand kayak series, and it's just addicting. But I've got to say, I don't think I've ever been more excited for a series than the KBBT. It suits me as an angler better, and I just think it is the ultimate form of competition.
Nice. That's really good to hear because we at KBBT have been taking on a little bit of criticism on social media. Talked to this about to Daniel Perry, to Marty Hughes, to Conrad, to everyone I've interviewed, John Pepin, and everybody says until you try it, you have a different opinion. But once you get into it and you see that you got to perform week after week, and no matter what body of water you're on, you can call it your honey hole, their honey hole. The even playing field is everybody's on a honey hole, right?
Yep.
So, you know, you, just because the fish are there, you got to make them bite. We still have weather that moves through. You got post frontal, pre-frontal, fronts coming through during fishing days. You got moon phases, all over the place. So yeah, I mean the fish might be there, but you have to get them to bite, and that's the skill in fishing. It's not called catching; it's called fishing. So, it's really cool
You showed
to
me
get in.
series that you have to win 6 straight days to be named champion. I don't know of too many anglers that can go have 6 straight days and not have one slip up. I've battled 25 mile per hour winds 2 weeks in a row. Luckily, knock on wood, I'm not going to battle it this weekend. But to all the haters out there, man, if it's you can't call it an online tournament. We got people like you. You're from Ohio. You drove to Arkansas to fish because of the weather. It's how bad do you want it? I mean, it comes with a title. If you want to consider yourself kayak bass champion of the nation or whatever you want to call yourself, you got to go out there and prove it. And honestly, to me, even though it is online, I still believe that if somebody goes out and wins 6 solid weeks in a row, and 90 inches isn't a safe number, as we proved last week. So six solid weeks in a row, you can't slip up one single time. Man, that just outweighs a single day of fishing on a body of water by all means, in my opinion.
Yeah, and since we're talking about the format of KBBT, like I like to lead into this question with saying my favorite is probably well known by now. I love the 1v1 format. I love that you have to perform versus your guy. No matter if your guy has the number 1 bag and you got the number 2 bag, you're going home. So, week after week, you got to face a man to man or angler to angler, because we have some ladies that are in the May bracket that are coming up, and the May bracket's going to be crazy.
Whew.
But I want to know, what is your favorite part of what KBBT has brought to the table with this bracket style format? What is your favorite part of what this tournament brings?
Man, my favorite part is the exposure, and to dive into it a little bit. And I'm going to get killed on this, but at the moment, I had this conversation with somebody else earlier this week, and for the life of me, I cannot remember who it was. But and at this moment, I'll remember as soon as we get off the call. But so when you're fishing, like let's say the national championship at KBF, where there's 600 something people in it,
Mm-hmm.
you're not going to get noticed if you're 34th. 34th is pretty good out of 600 something people, but you're not going to get noticed.
Right.
if you're going to get lost regardless if you're a good angler or not. So in this tournament, you're not getting lost at all. You're going one-on-one with another person, regardless if they're from Florida, Utah, Maine, or New York. It doesn't matter. You're going one-on-one with a person, putting their honey hole against your honey hole. And the way that KBBT, the way that you have and Greg has, the way that everybody has gone out and got every single angler exposure that we could get on the phones, that right there speaks all it is, flat out. You were taking people that no one knew who Marc Coates was in this tournament. Marc Coates has been an underdog since week 1. Marc Coates is an underdog in the Elite 8, and I just took out Jeff Isham. No offense, he's a great angler, but until that time right there, they were like, "Who is this guy?" And now I'm going on William Kennan. I'm still an underdog.
Yeah.
I still haven't gotten past that yet, but it's the fact that I've gotten to get my name out. Jonathan Pepin got to get his name out. Hell, everybody in the 64 got their names out on week day and 1 and 2, and that's my favorite part is the exposure.
Yeah, I mean that's something that's kind of like overlooked as far as what's been talked about with the other anglers, but the exposure it's priceless. You're in the Elite 8. You're already going home with a trophy. You're already going home with a check. So from here on out, it's about getting a bigger check and a nicer trophy and more bragging rights.
That's right.
But like you said, this week going against Mr. William Kennan is going to be a tall task, but I don't think it's a task too tall for you. I think it's going to be a fun event, a fun weekend, a fun Saturday, and I'm looking forward to it. So we'll have to see what happens. But staying in KBBT, we'll ask you one more question. It's a little more personal. This is the inaugural KBBT event. There's never been one before, and there'll never be another first KBBT event. So, Marc Coates, what would it mean to hold up the first place trophy and the check and your name written as champion of the first KBBT event?
Man, y'all might have seen a couple of wet eyes in that interview when they said that I beat Jeff Isham, but y'all ain't seen real tears until that first place trophy is held 3 foot over my head. And I'm only 5'8", so 3 foot above me really ain't all that high, but I promise you, I might stand on my tiptoes for that thing. Man, you're exactly right. There's only one first-time champion of the KBBT, and anybody that's in this Elite 8 has just as good of a chance as anyone else. In all honesty, there probably isn't any underdogs left. Everybody here has made it for a reason, and everybody here is a tough challenge to go up against in their own way. So it's going to be a grind, but I don't even – all I can focus on is this week. I don't even know what to say if that actually happened, but if it did, it came nothing short besides grinding and thanks to all the supporters that got me to that point, because there's been some down times. Man, you seen that limit I posted up last Saturday. I put 5 fish up, before 9 o'clock. That was 93 and 3/4.
It was impressive.
I didn't call a fish for 8 hours. I caught 70. I didn't call it that. I mean, I was scared.
Yeah, it's impressive, and it's got to be a little nerve-wracking when you throw up a high limit right at the beginning, and the rest of the day you're like, I can't get an upgrade to save my life.
My smallest fish was 18. My highest was 19 and 3/4, and I only had 3 bites all day that would have called anything, and I lost the advantage on all 3 of them because I wasn't prepared for it. So that's just sloppy fishing on my part.
Yeah. And let's go into a little bit of last week here, and just stay in the moment. You decided to go out and frogfish. Now tell us what led you into doing that, and tell us what your experience before last weekend with frog fishing. How experienced were you with frog fishing?
So I have this conversation with one of my sponsors, Jim Johnson, out of Last Cast Customs a lot. He laughs at me every single time. I have probably thrown about 30 or 40 frogs my entire life, and they usually go one trip, make 1, maybe 2 casts, and get thrown in a 5-gallon bucket. And I've still got that 5-gallon bucket back here in the back of this house. It's almost full. I'm going to have to go dig through it now. But it never appealed to me. Like, I never really gave it a chance. That's why, my buddy was like, I've seen you frog fish. And I said, no, you see me throw it one time and put the rod back down. I've never gotten a bite on it. I've never landed a fish on a frog before this last weekend. I've just never really dedicated any more than one, maybe two casts out of an entire day to frog fishing. What made me get into it is I knew I had to pull a trick out of my hat to take down Isham. I knew he was on fish. I knew he was a consistent hammer, and I knew a lot of guys were counting me out before the get-go. So I said, you know what? I know the frog spawn's on because, as soon as the lights go out, all you hear is rum. So, I'm sitting there at the boat ramp, got all my windows rolled down because it's 60-something degrees, got my feet kicked up, and all you can hear is frogs. And I just got on YouTube. And I just started watching. I probably watched YouTube from like 9:30 all the way to 1 o'clock in the morning, just watching frog fishing videos. And all I was watching was when the frog hits, how long before he jerks. And the reason I watched so many is because I wanted to see each and every possible situation that I could run into. And so I went out on the water. I had my Spro frog. I talked a little bit to Greg, and he gave me his advice. And, on the third cast, I landed a 5-pound fish. And I was like, okay. And what's crazy is I was doing exactly what I watched. And I know that that's not going to work for everybody. It's not even something that I would advise doing, pulling something out of your hat in the middle of a tournament of this caliber. But, it paid off. And I've got a frog tied on this week. In fact, I got a brand new frog rod just to go out there and do it. And I'm pulling another trick out of my hat this week. I'm doing something again that I've never done, just to hopefully it'll get me past Kenan.
There you go. You want to say what it is or no?
Oh, absolutely. I'm going to give full credit to Mr. Marty Hughes. He has completely sold me on the idea of a Nico rig that I have never thrown and never had any interest in throwing. I actually purchased some of his variation, had him make them for me and mail them. They came in today.
Nice.
I've already got it tied on. I'm not even going to practice with it. I'm just going to go out there and do it. I'm not even going to watch any video on this because I already have the idea in my mind how I want it to go, and I don't want to get off of my game plan. But
Marty won't steer you wrong.
No, Marty won't. I believe that full-heartedly. And but I'm gonna have 3 rods and 3 rods only when I hit the water on Saturday. That's going to be a fluke, a frog, and a Nico rig, and I'm not going to pick up anything else all day.
Whew. Well, that's dedication. So, speaking of this event, what are your plans for this week? Are you going to go like not fishing techniques because you just kind of gave us that body of water? Are you going to do something new? You going somewhere that you're confident at, that you've built trust in, or what's Marc Coates going to be fishing? Where are you going to be fishing on Saturday?
I fished the same lake the first 2 weeks, and then I gave it a chance to reload last week. Fished another body of water I knew had similar fish in it. My biggest problem this week, me and Kenan are both, relatively close to each other. We're going to get hit with a pretty wicked late cold front. We're going to have low 40s 2 nights in a row, both fishing Florida strain, which are extremely finicky fish. There's a good chance neither one of us throw up higher than mid 80s just because of the weather, but I haven't fully decided. I've got about 3 different lakes on the list. I've actually got 1 lake in 3 different states. I've got a lake in Arkansas, a lake in Texas, and a lake in Oklahoma, and I haven't decided which one I'm going to go with. I'm just going to kind of think on it tonight and tomorrow, and when I get off work tomorrow evening, I'm going to say, well, this is where I'm going, and we're just going to go make it happen.
Just going to go ahead and wing it.
Hey, it's worked so far.
It has. And it's been a treat to talk to you so far. We're about 24 minutes in. Try to get this wrapped up here in about 6, 7, 8 minutes. But we're good. We've got to know Marc Coates a little bit. We've peeled back some layers. We've found out about your job. You got a nice family, good support system. You threw frog last week. You're going to throw fluke and all this good stuff. What is the plans for you moving forward in 2020 and beyond? What are your goals and aspirations as far as an angler moving forward? What would you like to do? Where do you see yourself in the end of this year and next year?
Well, I'll tell you now, 2020 has been my most predominant tournament season yet. A few more tweaks. I've been having a problem culling consistently throughout the day and just about every tournament, but I've been throwing up pretty good limits. So my hopes for 2020, of course, I want to win this first event, and then I want to go back to back on the next event. But
There you go.
I'd really like to win one of the 3 BASS series left, qualify for the 2021 Bassmaster Classic, first ever for that. I think I've just got a good chance at finishing the year strong, and I think some of these major sticks that are counting me out got something to look forward to.
Well, that's good. I mean, it sounds like confidence behind your answer there. I mean, you sound like you're confident in what you're doing. You sound like you're interested in seeing where you can progress to through the end of the year, obviously. And just I've said this in an interview, and I've said this on and on, on Saturday podcasts. A confident angler is a dangerous angler, and you can get that confidence, and you can go out on the water. You're a force to be reckoned with, because the only person that's going to get into your head is yourself. So if you keep that PMA, like Gerald Swindle says, positive mental attitude, I think that's huge. That's key. I need to actually get one of those bracelets, for when I'm on the water. I lost my biggest bass when I lost to Patrick. That fish would have put me over the top. But, you just got to keep that. You got to keep that positive mental attitude out there, and that's it's something that seems like you have, and you're building confidence, and that's key.
Man, I'm 100% with you in that. Full believer in it. I pray flat out that Mr. Kennan has a solid day on the water, but I'm telling you now, he better have his stuff in order, because I'm coming and I'm knocking on his door.
Yeah, we got a couple more questions for you. So you've been in kayak fishing for a while. You've been fishing for as long as you can remember. For someone that's looking to get into the sport of kayak fishing, whether it be competitive or recreationally, what is a tip or some tips that you'd like to give to someone out there that may be on the fence about, jumping in to the sport?
My biggest tip is, man, a lot of people out there need to stop worrying so much about stability. A lot of these kayaks that we have nowadays, they're extremely stable. I mean,
Oh yeah.
it doesn't matter if you're big around or big up and down. It does, they're going to suit you. You can find what you need. Go talk to a kayak dealer and let them build a kayak around your personality for what you're looking for. That's the biggest thing I run into is guys that are on the fence. They're worried about stability and flipping their kayak. I promise you, all of us guys would not be in them if stability was a factor. So just go talk to your dealer. A lot of these kayak dealers will build a kayak for you. Find what brand and what style is going to suit best for what you're looking for. But you're never going to have that. You're never going to have that great feeling until you go let them give you that scenario.
Yeah, I agree. I think that's one of the best advice that you can give is, everybody, sees these kayaks and they're like, oh, that looks cool, or this one looks cool. Some of the coolest kayaks that I saw when I sat in them for myself were not comfortable. But the guy next to me might have said, what do you mean this is the most comfortable kayak I've ever sat in? So, whenever I first went and kayaked, was kayak shopping for my very first kayak, I went there to look at a feel-free lure. But I sat in it, and I didn't like the low back on it. I wanted a higher back seat. I didn't think it was that comfortable. Some people think the feel-free, the anti-gravity seat, or whatever it's called, or the gravity seat is comfortable. It wasn't for me. And then I sat in my Jackson Big Rig, and that's all she wrote. I walked out with a Jackson Big Rig. So, you go out and just sit in boats and get them on the water and make sure that you're comfortable. So that'd be my advice. Let's see here. What have we not heard Marc Coates say about himself that he wants the world to know? Whether it be your personal life, your kayaking life, or maybe some words of encouragement or anything like that.
What have we not talked about that you'd like to be heard?
Whew, I'm a pretty open book, so that's a tough one. But I think if I had to pick one thing, um, all you guys out there that are supporting me and do leave me messages or comment on anything, even if I don't get back to you guys, I promise I go back and I look at every comment and every broadcast. I look at every message. I read absolutely everything, and I have no amount of thanks that I could give that would be right for that. I just appreciate all you guys that are out there doing it, and I promise I do read it, even if it doesn't seem like it. It's just most times when I get off the water after 10 hours, I'm exhausted. I don't feel like talking to people, but I promise I'm following along with all that, and thanks to each and every one of my supporters and sponsors.
Yeah, and leading into that, let you take us down the road for closure of this interview. You want to give any shout out to family, friends, sponsors, loved ones, anything like that? And want to say anything to your competitor this weekend?
Absolutely. Biggest shout out I'm going to give for this whole thing. Big shout out to my daughter Juju. Last weekend was for her. She got a chance to watch the whole broadcast that morning, and I told everybody, y'all watch, because I'm gonna throw up the biggest limit I've ever thrown up in the first 2 hours, and that's what happened. So, that was for my daughter. Big shout out to my sister, my wife, parents, and uncle, and all my family members and friends that are following along with it. My sponsors, of course, I want to thank New Canoe and Windows USA. I wouldn't be here without either one of them. Rocks Outfitters, Whack 'em and Stack 'em Custom Baits, ZR Custom Tackle, and Last Cast Customs. And for Mr. Kennan, like I said, man, I pray for the best of you. I pray that you have a great day and finish with a high limit. But at the same time, man, you better bring your A game, because one fish short and you're out. I'm bringing everything I got, and I'm coming for you full steam. I'm 100% confident that I'm going to be over 90.
Well, there you go, everybody. We got Marcus Coates right there. That was Marc Coates. We got a full interview in. Elite 8 angler for the first ever KBBT bracket tournament. You can find him fishing against Mr. William Kennan Saturday on the Kayak Bass Bracket Tour Facebook page, YouTube page, and Twitch. So make sure you tune in and watch how this all unfolds, as Marc here will be going for a Final Four finish, or maybe a championship, or is he going to go home? So we'll have to see what happens. We'll have to see what happens.
Don't say that.
We'll have to see what happens, but we appreciate you guys tuning in. This has been Marc Coates. This is Todd Patrick with KBBT, and we'll catch you on the flip side.
Well, that's the truth, man. That's the red bearded truth teller, man. I love his passion, man. I love his excitement for the fishing and just the sport itself. And man, he's good people, man. And I'm appreciative he's on our broadcast and helping us out and just doing whatever he can. And it's good stuff, man. So Marcus, we wish you the best of luck, man. You got a buzzsaw this weekend coming up, and wish you the best, man. We're going to get a lot of camera time on you guys, and we'll see what happens. So, all right, so we're off to the other interview, and this is Matt Frentress. Can you believe this guy? I mean, never heard of him. Never heard of this guy. Quiet, never really. I mean, we haven't had him on camera at all. He's been fishing in places that just didn't have service. He would get his fish in within, minutes of cutoff time, and he just continues to plow through the board and beat a hammer last week. And anybody who can beat Derek Brundle one-on-one, I don't care who you are, where you're fishing, what have you, you've made a name for yourself. So Matt has done an outstanding job, and I cannot wait. He's going to be in he's going to be in areas this weekend that we are going to be able to get service on him, and we're going to be able to get to know him a lot better. But first, just get to know him as a person, and just kind of looking through and kind of just seeing his demeanor and everything else. So you can tell he's a very faith-oriented gentleman and loves his family, and just a good guy. And it's a guy you want to root for, and just kind of just see him and just see him all the way through. So, but he's a hammer. I mean, he knows how to fish. He knows where to fish, and he's been putting fish on the board consistently. So it's exciting to see. But we're going to go ahead and show the interview of Mr. Matt Frentress, and I hope you guys enjoy it.
Everybody, Todd Patrick with KBBT, and we are interviewing the Elite 8 anglers in the first ever KBBT bracket tournament. And today we have the privilege of talking to Mr. Matt Frentress. Matt is a resident of Forney, Texas, and Matt's had a little 62 3/4 inches his first round, but it got him by. This is a 1v1 style format, so as long as you go out and beat your guy, you're moving on to the next round. For instance, there were guys that had like one fish and moved on to after the first round. Just you got to beat your guy head to head, and competition's been getting stiffer as we've moved on. So he had 62 3/4 for his first round. 92 inches for round number 2, which is quite impressive, and 88.5 last week to survive. Matt is moving on. He's got a tough opponent this week, but everybody want to welcome Matt Frentress. So welcome, Matt.
Hey, thanks, Todd. Yeah, it's been quite a little journey. That first round was probably the most miserable round. It was such a grind, and we were dodging lightning storms and hailstorms, and it was just rough. So I was lucky to get out of that first round. I caught an 18 3/4 with about 5 minutes to go in that round. It put me
That's a blessing right there.
Yeah. And I did not fish clean that day at all. I missed a lot of fish, and so I was lucky to get out of that first round, but bounced back, the next 2 rounds. So.
Oh, and last week, I mean, you took out, arguably one of the hottest anglers in the country in the tournament series, Mr. Derek Brundle. The guy is on fire with everything he's been doing lately, and you went down there and silenced the critics, and you did well. So congratulations on taking out Derek, and congratulations on making it this far, and we'll see if you can get into the Final Four after your matchup on Saturday.
Sure,
but Matt, let's dive in. Yeah, go ahead.
It's been a tough route, Marc is a fantastic angler here in Texas, well known in Texas. You got Ross, who's a hammer, and he could have very well put up, 110 inches that day. I was fishing against him, and we were talking after the tournament just of all the big fish he was seeing on OH Ivy. I just couldn't get by. So and then Derek, he catches fish everywhere all the time, and I was probably most nervous that week, mainly because we had some terrible winds. I mean, it was blowing like, probably 15 to 25 miles an hour consistently. And the direction it was blowing was really pretty tough. And I was trying to bed fish. And so there was a couple little areas, kind of some little pockets off the main lake where those fish have been kind of bedding up, and some bigger fish. And it made it challenging. I did catch a 19-incher against Derek that day. The last 35 minutes of that day before I had to head back, because I had to leave early because there was no service, as well as we had that south wind blowing about 20 miles an hour that afternoon against us. And I had left about a 6.5, 7 pounder on the bed. Just couldn't get her to eat. And I had thought that I lost the tournament because I spent so much time on that fish. I could never get her to eat, and I just thought, man, I don't know what's enough. So
sometimes when you find those bedding fish during spawn, when you're on a tournament that's only so long, you gotta pick and choose your battles on how long you're gonna sit there and try to get that fish to eat. And if you would have got her to eat at the last minute, every minute spent would have been worth it. So
it probably would have bumped me up to about 93, 94 inches for the day. I just knew that fish, I wasn't getting any other bites at that time, so I just stayed on that fish, and I tried to get it to eat. So yeah, I was disappointed I didn't catch her, but it worked out. So
yeah, like we said, we've talked about your journey this far. You're in the Elite 8, and you're working your way to get into the Final Four. You're already taking home a check. You're already taking home a trophy. So at this point in time, do you feel like the pressure is maybe a little more, is getting more intense as weeks go? Are you feeling a little more relaxed out there? What's your thought process going into this week on how you feel?
I feel really good about this week. I found some new water that I think is going to really pay off for me. I felt like that last lake I was fishing, Lake Fairfields, being kind of at the end of the spawn, and you could just feel that they were kind of getting into that post-spawn funk, and they were just really challenging to get them to eat. And so went and found some new water. I feel pretty confident. This is a lake I'm familiar with. It's a lake that has very high potential. And so I'm looking forward to getting out there. And I know those fish are there. We just had a bad front come through. It's dropping tons of rain, and it's supposed to be a little chilly tonight. So it should be a little chilly in the morning. I say chilly. Down here, it's going to be like 45, which that's for us
in
May
Texas.
is cold.
That's chilly.
So those fish might not eat first thing in the morning, but I think once the sun comes out, warms up a little bit, I think they'll be good to go. So.
Well, that's good. Well, let's dive in a little bit and let's get to know Matt Frentress on a little bit deeper level. So, Matt, I'm gonna throw you a cookie here. Easy question, and you can go as deep with it as you'd like. But basically, just a general question. Just tell everybody about yourself. Tell us things that maybe we don't know about Matt Frentress. So, tell us about your job, family, friends, anything like that, man. Just you have the floor here.
Awesome. Yeah. So. I'm from Texas. I've always lived here, East Texas and Dallas area. Currently living in just east of Dallas, about 25 miles in Forney, Texas. I've been there for about 10 years now. There's just tons of good lakes over here in East Texas, and just enjoy, being able to travel and fish a ton of different lakes. And any of them are really good. So that's one of my passions. My other passion is my family. I got a wife, and for almost 14 years this late in December, and then 2 kiddos, 12 and 10, boy and a girl. So I love spending a lot of time with the family and try to take them out fishing when I can. I try not to push it too much because I don't want them to get annoyed by it, because I like it too much probably, and they're not all about it. So,
right.
But during the week, I work in Dallas, just in North Dallas, as a manager of a health and wellness program, and have a bunch of people underneath me that we provide, education services for kind of Medicaid, Medicare populations. That was kind of boring, but I sit at a desk every day for minimum of 40 hours a week. When you're a manager, sometimes that turns into 45 or 50. And
yeah, it does.
And on top of that, my drive time is just about, an hour one way with traffic, because Dallas traffic's so bad. So my weekends and getting to fish is like an escape. It's kind of like a therapy for me. Kind of helps me disconnect and helps me kind of refresh for the next week. So yeah, that's kind of me, and a little bit about me. How I got to start fishing was my dad would take me to these little things at some of the state parks down here. They're like kid fish tournaments when I was little, and we'd catch little bitty brim like this big and take them in there, and they'll weigh them, and weighs a few ounces. And you get little ribbons and win some prizes. And I think that's kind of when it all started. In college, a friend from one of my churches that I went to, he started inviting me to go on these big bass tournaments on like Thursday nights, and we would go almost every Thursday night doing these big bass tournaments. And I got hooked, because I think the first time I went, I ended up catching like an almost 8-pounder and winning the big money pot. So at that point, I was just addicted. It's over from there. So
yeah, it is.
But that's kind of how I got started, and that addiction started for sure. Yeah.
So you have any other hobbies, any other things that you really like to do, or are you just strictly kind of like a family man and a fisherman?
I do have a couple other hobbies actually. One of them, I've been building rods for about 15 years.
Oh, wow.
Actually started that because I had like a tackle addiction. So every time I go to a store, I'd just buy stuff. And
right.
I always give my wife a hard time about it, because she's like, you already have thousands of stuff. Why do you need these? Probably have 3 packages of the same stuff. So
that's funny.
A friend of mine from California in our church, he showed me, some rods that he was built. And I was like, dude, I want to learn how to do that. I love tinkering and stuff like that. So I started building my own rods. Me, my brother-in-law, my dad, we kind of started building together. And and just to save money really, so I wasn't spending a ton of money on good equipment. And then after that, friends of ours started saying, "Hey, build me one." So I started practicing, and I was like, "Oh, okay, I can make a little bit of money." So I was making a little bit of money making rods, and it paid for all my fishing expenses. And wasn't getting on to by my wife about that tackle stuff, but she's good. She loves that I love fishing, but we used to give each other a hard time about how much I was spending on fishing equipment. So having that rod business kind of helped me cover all that costs, tournament costs. So.
Well, that's good.
Yeah.
So, building rods, fishing, family man, said you go to church, God-fearing man. So
yeah, actually,
that's awesome, man.
Church, I was able to record with you last night. We were actually, I played bass guitar and for our worship team, and so we were actually recording service last night, and
nice.
We got out kind of late recording, so I was able to connect with you last night. So that's kind of one of my other hobbies and passions I like. I like music a lot, play a lot of different instruments. So yeah.
Yeah, I love praise and worship at church. That's a good time for me. I love to sing. So, we kind of can connect on that level for sure.
Yeah, the good Lord didn't bless me with a voice to sing, so he gave me some skills to play some instruments. So I'll take that.
Yeah, that's awesome, and got to use the skills that God gives you and show them off for the world. So that's your kind of like your little ministry there.
Yeah.
So you told us about how you kind of got into fishing, but go ahead and go in a little in depth and tell us how you got into kayak fishing. Why a kayak, and how did that passion start, and when did that start for you?
Sure. So, like I said, I started with those big bass tournaments in boats. My brother-in-law ended up buying a boat, and we fished team tournaments together quite a bit. And he ended up selling his boat, and so we didn't have a way to really fish. So a good friend of mine that bought some rods from me a long time ago, Chris Payne, he's pretty popular in the kayak community. I saw him fishing out of a kayak, and I was like, I sent him some messages like, "Dude, what is this? Like, what are you doing? Like, is this legit?" And so, I started asking a lot of questions. There's some few guys from Facebook that I started following, and started asking a lot of questions. So I jumped in, and I got a boat, and sold it probably a couple weeks later, and got a different one because I didn't test it out, and fished that first tournament on Lake Palestine here, and finished third in the first tournament I ever fished out of a kayak. And so I was hooked after that because it was really fun.
Oh, yeah.
It's just a different type of competitiveness to it, and it just takes a lot of skill. And so I've been doing that since 2016, so almost 4 years now, and it's been a blast. I haven't turned back since. I've been in a couple different boats that I've really liked. I've really liked Diablo Amigo. It's a paddle boat, and also a New Canoe Pursuit. It was a fantastic boat. But last fall, I've really connected with Mariner Sales in Dallas, one of my big supporters. I helped them with like demo shows and stuff like that, and fly fishing shows and stuff like that up here in Dallas, and ended up connecting with them and got a Hobie Outback since last fall. And since I've done that, it really has fit my fishing style because I like to power fish a lot, and move a lot, and so that's really fit my style, and it's really helped me be a little bit more successful covering water for sure.
Well, that's awesome. The Hobie Outback, got real popular with that redesign that they had, and it's definitely a very intriguing boat. For a bigger guy like me, not so much, but for smaller, medium-sized guys, that boat seems to be very, very popular. I know Matt Scotch down in Texas fishing out of Outback as well. So I've seen them firsthand. Those Amigos, those Diablos seem pretty neat actually, as well. Seem like they, they're really, they got a big open floor plan there, and nice to stand up and sight fish out of.
Yeah, so, and that's kind of why I like that Amigo. Guillermo Gonzalez, a good friend of mine. It's a fantastic boat. I found that I wasn't a very good paddler. And so I wasn't very efficient keeping that lure in the water. Some people are fantastic, at paddling, and Guillermo's one of the best I've ever seen. And it has that open concept to it. Same thing with New Canoe Pursuit. Raymond Martinez, one of my good friends there in San Antonio area. got me kind of hooked on those. And they have kind of that open floor deck as well, and they paddle well as well. So I enjoyed those boats. I just like being a little more hands-free, and kind of want to switch to that, that Hobie Outback. It just keeps me a little more hands-free. I can cover a lot more water too. So.
Yeah, arguably the boats that have the most foreplan are those Diablo Amigos and the new canoe anything line, whether it be the Flint, the Frontier, the Pursuit. New canoe is high on my list. I'd love to get into one day, but so far right now I'm in a native Titan 12, and I'm actually liking it. So let's see. So let's stay with your kayak fishing. You told us how you got into the sport. What is your biggest accomplishment, or what is your best memory so far out of a kayak?
My probably favorite memory was probably that first tournament I fished, because that instantly hooked me. I got that Amigo, and I knew a spot on Lake Palestine up north, and it's some flooded bushes, and I didn't even have an anchor at the time, and the wind's blowing, of course, like 15 miles an hour, 20 miles an hour. So
it's rough in a paddle boat.
I'm floating by these bushes that are flooded, and I'm flipping, a creature in those bushes, and just was smashing them. And I had such a good time in that tournament that it hooked me instantly. And I don't know that I'll ever go back to solely fishing out of a boat ever again. Like, I still have friends that take me, but I have so much good times out of a kayak. I don't know what it is. It's just your boat in the water. It's just very relaxing to me. I don't know why. It's just so therapeutic, I guess you could say.
Yeah, I mean, I could relate. I mean, I got into my, first kayak, and I went to my first tournament. It was Bluegrass Kayak Anglers tournament, ran by A.J. McWhorter, Jay Wallen, and went down to Cave Run Lake in Kentucky, and I sucked. I didn't know what I was doing, but I fell in love with the sport. I fell in love with the camaraderie that the kayak bass fishing community has, and I mean, that is it's addicting in itself.
That is another thing that drew me to it, was the people.
Yes.
And you're gonna have people that you just don't really get along with or whatever. And, I'm a pretty laid back guy. I don't really have problems. I just don't like drama. But that was what was different with the boating community. And nothing against, there's some good people, but for some reason, everybody was really private about information. They didn't share information. There wasn't that connection, even with some of the clubs. There just wasn't that, friendship or anything in there. But instantly with the kayaking tournaments, like you become buddies with people almost instantly, and it's something I really enjoyed for sure.
Yeah, it's like I said, that's something that's really big. Everybody's been like open arms. I've never really had anybody blow me off. I'm learning, so I'm always asking questions. I'm always watching. So this is all new to me still. Being about 3 years into it, but I love it, and I love the sport, and I'm just trying to do my part to help grow the sport. And that's that's where my passion's at. So let's go to KBBT a little bit. So that's the event that we're fishing. It's the Kayak Bass Bracket Tour. It's the April inaugural monthly event. So I'll ask you a two-part question. For one, what is your favorite part of this style of tournament, being that you fished in some other tournaments, live events, monthly onlines? And then secondly, what would it mean for you as a person and an angler to be the inaugural champion of the first ever Kayak Bass Bracket Tour bracket?
Sure. When I first saw it, I was like, okay, what is this? It sounds cool. And, we really kind of, some of the live events were getting canceled because of it. So I was like, well, here in Texas, they're like, we can go fishing. Doesn't, we're not affected by all the COVID stuff that's going on. And so I was like, heck, I'll throw my name in there. I love fishing. It's just another avenue to, fish and compete. And so I was like, a real cool concept, and I was like, let's try it and see what it's like. It's new. I mean, it's new to everybody. I know they've been talks of people doing it, but nothing's ever come from it. But I really enjoy the one-on-one competition. It's you have to be very strategic with it. You have an opportunity to fish different lakes, and there's so many good ones out here in Texas. So, weather plays a big part of that. Wind direction, and that plays a key role because last week that wind was blowing out of the south, 15 to 25 miles an hour. I took a chance to go back to a lake that I was catching them pretty good on, knowing that it might be a little bit more difficult, and it was. Right. And you just take risk as they come, and sometimes you need to move and make changes. Like now, I'm going up against Marty, and I know he's been putting up some good limits. I knew my lake was kind of starting to fall into that post-spawn funk, and I knew I needed to make a change and find some new water. So it's very strategic. That's one thing that's been that I like about it most is all week I'm thinking like, okay, what am I going to do? Where am I going to go? Do I need to go find some new water or something like that? So the strategy around it is pretty interesting and pretty fun.
Yeah. And then to go into the second part of the question there, what would it mean to you as a person and as an angler to come out on top as the champion of the first ever event?
Oh man, I think it's just really cool. Like anytime I have success in any tournaments, I enjoy it. I'm very competitive. Throughout high school, I played a lot of different sports. Even played golf in college, and so I'm very competitive. And that's kind of why I got into the kayak fishing, was just for the competitiveness of it, to keep that kind of competitive drive going. So this coming along and going against some outstanding anglers and a lot of them that I normally probably wouldn't get to fish against unless it was one of the national tournaments. I wouldn't get to fish against these guys. So it would mean a lot. I love what I do. I'm very passionate about it. And it would mean a lot. I mean that, I'm a pretty decent angler if I'm beating these guys. And so far I've beaten 3 really good ones. And, I'm a pretty humble guy. So if I win, it's not going to change who I am as a person.
Of course not.
Yeah, it's just, but it just, to me personally, it would just mean like, oh man, you've had some good success against some really good guys. So.
Yeah, I mean, Marty's not going to be an easy opponent. So he's out there fishing a bunch, and he knows what he's doing out there in Nebraska. It's going to be a good 1v1 versus with you guys, and I'm looking forward to Saturday and seeing how this all works out. Yeah,
I know Marty's good. I don't know him a lot personally. I think I met him for maybe 30 seconds one time at I think it was a national championship at Kentucky Lake. I think him and Christine Fisher dropped by the house we were staying at for just a short amount of time, and then they left. But I've heard really good things about him. He seems like a really good guy. I saw his interview last night and was like, man, this dude is really cool. And I know he's a really good angler too. So it's gonna be a battle, and I'm not a quitter, and so I'm gonna battle to the last minute and see what happens. So.
Well, that's awesome. Like I said, everybody, this is Matt Frentress. We're doing an interview here with KBBT. I'm Todd Patrick. I'm your host, and we are getting deep in with Matt. So let's go a couple more questions here. Matt, where do you see yourself as an angler moving forward? Did you have any goals coming into 2020? And if so, what were they? And where do you see yourself maybe even beyond 2020? What would you like to see yourself, maybe doing as far as where you're competing or, things like that?
Sure. One of my goals this year was to be a little bit more consistent, fishing like a full trail. Worked the previous years. I've had to pick and choose tournaments I've been able to fish. And so this year I really am trying to fish all of the North Texas, events. It's a big trail down here in Texas. And, we've had upwards to 110 anglers in those events. Some of the best guys in Texas. So, so far, the first couple of tourneys have had, we've done really well then. Finished third in February and just finished first in our last event. So I'm hoping I can continue to keep that trend going and fish a whole year to see how I end up with those anglers. So
there's some sticks down there in that club.
So, yeah, there's a lot of good ones for sure. So that's one of the things that, I want to be a little bit more consistent in being able to fish. Work permitting. I mean, that plays a big role in it. And the other thing is, I've really struggled in some of the national events, and whether it be the national championship. I fished a Hobie Trail this year event on Lake Fork, and then also a bass event on Lake Fork, and just, man, I really struggled in those events. It just didn't pan out like I wanted to. I really wanted to compete well. Like I can compete like I know I can against some of those guys that are coming from all over, kind of like what we're doing with KBBT, competing against those guys. And so, I was able to fish a lot of those big events this year. Looking at maybe possibly making the TOC through I think it's like a wild card event or whatever. I think they still have that, and seeing how that shakes out. But that's kind of where I want to see myself going is try to be a little bit more consistent, being competitive, and and so far this year it's been going pretty well.
Yeah, it's kind of the same answer that I was kind of getting from Daniel Perry. He knows that he has the skills. He knows that he has the right mindset to go out and compete. He just wants to prove himself on the local level and then go out on the national level and then, keep on making his way up. So, it's going to be a grind, but I wish you the best of luck as far as that goes.
Yeah, thanks.
So let's get into the last couple questions here. If you were meeting someone for the first time, or meeting someone, or someone came up to you for some advice, asking you, "Hey man, I see you fish out of a kayak. What kind of information would you give them? What kind of tips or tricks or anything that you've gone through to make their journey a little easier transitioning into kayak fishing? What would you say?"
Oh man, first thing first is go to a demo day at one of your local dealers. Like we have a really good one here at Manor Sales. They put up demo days in the spring and the fall, and then also per request. I wish I would have taken advantage of that, because I think I would have saved myself from buying a couple of boats that I didn't really care for in the beginning before I found some that I enjoyed. And so demo, for sure. After that, once you find the boat you like, I would suggest don't worry about getting a power pole, getting electronics, don't worry about getting all these crazy accessories right off the bat. Slowly piece those things together as you get more comfortable with your boat and find things that you need. You don't need all that stuff to do well. When I first started, I didn't have a graph, when I was fishing, and I know how to use a graph pretty well, but I didn't need one. I just was getting on the water and fishing. And I think getting comfortable with your boat, man, I see a lot of people die from not wearing a life jacket. So that's a pet peeve of mine.
PFD.
Wear your PFD all the time, but just kind of get comfortable. And also just do your check before you get out in the water. If the weather's bad, it's not worth risking your life over, look for another day or a smaller area to fish. But yeah, first, demo a boat first before you buy. It'll save you money and hassle. So
I agree with that one 110%. So many people say, I like this boat and I like this boat. Well, have you been in the boat?
Exactly.
So I think that, a demo day is awesome. And don't rush in to buy. If you had to wait a week, wait a week. If you got to wait a couple weeks, wait a couple weeks. But when you're making a $1,500 plus purchase on a kayak, I think it's worth the time to put in the work to make sure you get what you want.
Exactly. So, you're never going to get the money you spend on it initially. If you buy and then try to resell, you're never getting that money back. So take your time.
Yeah, you're going to lose a couple $100 at least.
At least, yeah, for sure.
So lastly, Matt, do you have any final statements, anything else that you want people to know about yourself? And if not, you can roll on into telling us about some sponsors, some supporters, and you can take us down the road to end this interview, man.
So let's go into some supporters. My family is a huge supporter. My kiddos always checking. I always make a deal with them. I'm like, help me spoil my reels, and I'll give you a percentage of what I win if I win.
There you go.
I'm not winning all the time, but they're always asking, like, how much money do I get this time? So, and I just make it kind of fun for them and kind of get them involved. My wife's a big supporter, and I just try to make sure I balance it out. Make sure I spend family time first, and then fishing time. Kind of get that good balance. And they've been supporters with me with this KBT because we've been fishing like every weekend. So they've been a big supporter on that, and I appreciate it. And then, another supporter. I'm a Christian. And I told you earlier. God is like number one in my life, and without Him, I wouldn't be in even a position where I could even do this. And it just, to me, another thing that I love about kayak fishing is the nature. I see God in everything out there, whether it be just the movement of the water, the birds, and just everything around me. It just makes me feel closer to Him, and He's number one in my life. And I want to be clear on that to everybody. It's very important to me. And then also some of my supporters in the kayak group, Mariner Sales of Dallas, one of the biggest kayak retailers here in Texas as well, maybe even the U.S. And I've really teamed up with them. My office is literally 5 minutes from their shop, and so I stop by and chat with them. They've been a really big supporter with me and helping me get in a good kayak this year, and really appreciate those guys. Eris and Adrian are there at Mariner Sales. I also have some smaller supports, V&M Baits and Lose Reels. There's some smaller supporters. They're not sponsors or anything like that, but they do support me, and with that type of stuff. And I appreciate all of them. And anytime you get a little bit extra help, and save some money on fishing stuff, and then you got to put in the work for them. So working shows and helping them get those products out to the the different consumers. That's what it's all about. Helping those people that are helping you. So, but those are some of my biggest supports. So,
V&M makes some really good jigs.
Oh yeah. I will have those tied on Saturday for sure.
Yeah, they sell those at Bass Pro Shops. I was turned on to those by another angler in Ohio. So go check out V&M. So I did, and kind of like those guys. So
yeah, they got fantastic colors. Their hooks are really good too, and they're not a bad jig they make. So that's good.
All right, Matt. Well, thanks for the interview. We appreciate it. Hopefully you have a good time this weekend on Saturday. Hopefully you put up a big number, a big bag, and wish you the best of luck versus Marty Hughes. Thanks for fishing with KBBT. And from all of us here at KBBT, everybody, thanks for watching. This has been an interview with Matt Frentress, as Elite 8 angler in the first ever KBBT tournament. And we just want to thank you guys. Matt, thanks again. We'll talk to you later.
Thank you.
All right, bye-bye.
All right, everybody, that was Matt Frentress. Very soft-spoken, but what a competitor, man of faith. As a former youth pastor and pastor, I can appreciate that, man. So that was good stuff. I appreciate it tremendously, and I can respect it tremendously. So God bless you, Matt. Appreciate your testimony and, what you stand for. So good stuff. Kind of Matt, what kind of Matt was talking about too is the community itself. How we are different. Community here with kayakers, man. I tell you, he hit the nail on the head. I've known and fished in the boat world too, and it's just a little bit different, man. I mean, nothing against the boat guys, but man, we just have something special here. The community of kayak bass fishermen and anglers it's just tremendous, and there's no doubt that if any one of us needed help on the water, we're right there. Speaking of which, I do want to say something, and I think it's fitting. But one of our own got in a real bad car accident, Christine Fisher, off a mountain, and prayers out to her. Hope everything is okay. Just never want to see that, and saw pictures and looks awful. So, I know she's okay, but still, it's thank the Lord that she wasn't hurt worse. And it seems like all of her equipment was fine, but this equipment secondary to her life. And I just wish the best for her and speedy recovery, and have her get on the water as soon as possible, because that's not a fun thing. So. Anyway, we're going to do this. We're going to take a little break. We're going to come back here in probably about maybe 45 minutes, and we're going to finish up our interviews that we've got. The next two, Rodney Kennan's going to start us off. If you know how to talk to Rodney Kennan, you are in for a treat. And he is facing Marcus Coates this weekend, and he's got a lot to say about it. And then also Patrick Tharp, who beat Matt Linseman by like a quarter inch last week at a last hour 19-inch bass. Made it to the Elite Eight. It couldn't get any more dramatic than that. It was unbelievable, and just squeaked out a win. But anyway, he's got some things to say too, so we're looking forward to hearing that. So come on back about 30-45 minutes, and we'll play those interviews. And then after that, about 8 o'clock Eastern, we are going to do the preview of the Elite Eight. We're going to bring back Marcus and Todd, and we're going to have some fun and just kind of talk about the Elite Eight and get ready for tomorrow. Kind of talk about strategy and what everybody's going to be facing, and it's going to be a good time. So hope you guys join in. Hope you guys are doing well. We'll see you soon. Bye-bye.